The cold metal floor pressed against Elena Park's bruised skin. Her breath came in ragged gasps, echoing through the abandoned research station's empty corridor. For 3 years, the Galactic Imperial scientists had treated her like a specimen, not a human being. She remembered the day they took her. A routine deep space exploration mission had gone wrong when their research vessel was intercepted by Imperial warships. They wanted human subjects for their bizarre biological experiments, and she was their prime candidate. Young, resilient, with a background in advanced engineering, Elena was perfect for their twisted research. The experiments were never gentle. Cybernetic implants, genetic modifications, neural network probes. She had endured them all. Each procedure left a scar, both physical and mental. Her body had become a map of scientific brutality, each mark telling a story of survival. But something unexpected happened during their last experiment. While they thought they were breaking her, Elena was learning. Her engineering mind was absorbing their technology, understanding their complex communication systems, and identifying critical vulnerabilities. What the Imperials saw as torture, she transformed into intelligence. Her latest implant, a neural interface designed to control her movements, had an unforeseen consequence. Instead of subjugating her, it gave her unprecedented access to their technological infrastructure. She could now read their data streams, understand their encrypted communications, and most importantly, plan her escape. The research station was a massive structure floating in the cold emptiness of space. Designed to be impenetrable, it had multiple security layers. Automated defense systems, robotic guards, and constant surveillance made escape seem impossible. But Elena was no ordinary prisoner. Using her newly acquired technological skills, she began manipulating the station's systems. Small, almost unnoticeable changes. A security protocol here, a communication channel there. She was like a ghost, moving through their digital world without leaving a trace. Her physical body was weak, marked by countless experiments, but her mind was sharper than ever. Years of scientific torture had transformed her into something the Imperials never expected, a weapon of their own creation. On the night of her escape, she moved with calculated precision. The robotic guards that once seemed intimidating now appeared like simple machines to her enhanced perception. She understood their programming, their response patterns, their weaknesses. One by one, she disabled the security systems, not through brute force but through intelligent manipulation. A slight code adjustment here, a redirected communication protocol there. To the station's central monitoring system, everything appeared normal. Her escape pod was small, barely equipped for survival. But survival was something Elena had mastered. She knew the Imperial tracking systems, knew how to mask her departure. What seemed like a desperate flight was actually a meticulously planned extraction. As the pod detached from the massive research station, Elena allowed herself a moment of reflection. The Imperials had chosen her, thinking they could break her spirit. Instead, they had created their own worst nightmare. A human who was no longer just a victim, but a technological threat. Her hands, once restrained by medical clamps, now danced across the pod's control panel. Complex algorithms and bypass codes flowed from her fingertips. She was programming her survival, mapping a route through the most dangerous regions of space. The vast darkness outside was no longer a threat. It was her sanctuary, her path to freedom, and her future battleground. The Imperial scientists had spent years trying to understand human resilience. Now, they would learn its true meaning. Elena Park was not just escaping. She was preparing for a war that would redefine the balance of power in the galaxy, and her journey was just beginning. The pod's engines hummed softly, carrying with it a promise of revenge, of hope, and of humanity's unbreakable spirit. In the infinite darkness of space, a single escape pod represented something the Galactic Empire would soon learn to fear: the awakening of a human weapon. Kai Choi's underground resistance base was hidden deep within an abandoned asteroid mining colony. The space was cramped, with makeshift communication stations and worn computer terminals scattered across metal-plated walls. When Elena's encrypted transmission first arrived, Nobody expected the technological marvel that would change everything. The Resistance had been fighting a losing battle against the Galactic Empire for years. Small groups of human survivors scattered across different star systems had maintained minimal contact. They were more like wounded animals, hiding and surviving, than an organized fighting force. Elena's data package was different. It wasn't just another distress signal or survival report. It contained comprehensive details about Imperial research facilities, communication protocols, and technological vulnerabilities that no human had ever documented before. Kai studied the information for 3 straight days, barely sleeping, consuming nutrient packets and coffee. Kai was not a typical Resistance leader. Once a corporate systems engineer, he had lost his entire family during the Imperial invasion of Earth's outer colonies. His background in network infrastructure made him understand the true value of Elena's information immediately. This wasn't just data. It was a roadmap to potential rebellion. The Resistance team gathered around the main holographic display. Dr. Yuna Lee, their lead technical analyst, began breaking down Elena's detailed schematics. Her fingers moved rapidly across multiple screens, confirming and cross-referencing every piece of information. These communication node vulnerabilities, Yuna said, pointing to complex digital blueprints, are not just theoretical. They're real, precise weaknesses we can exploit. The Imperial communication network was considered unbreakable. Massive quantum encryption systems, multiple redundancy protocols, and advanced AI monitoring made traditional hacking impossible. But Elena's research revealed something extraordinary, a fundamental design flaw that could be systematically attacked. Kai understood that this was more than just a technical opportunity. It was a psychological weapon. By showing the Imperials that their supposedly impenetrable systems could be compromised, they would create fear and uncertainty. The Resistance began training specialized teams. Young survivors with technical backgrounds were recruited and trained using Elena's acquired knowledge. They learned not just about breaking systems, but understanding them at a fundamental level. Each team was small, usually comprising 3 to 4 members. They were equipped with custom-designed electronic warfare tools, developed using the detailed schematics Elena had provided. These weren't traditional weapons, but sophisticated digital instruments designed to infiltrate and disrupt Imperial infrastructure. Their first target was a minor communication relay near the Orion sector. The mission was simple, not to destroy, but to demonstrate vulnerability. A small team would insert a specially designed data packet that would temporarily disable the relay without leaving traditional trace evidence. The mission was successful. For 17 minutes, the Imperial communication network experienced unexplained disruptions. No alarms were triggered, no physical damage was done. But the psychological impact was immense. Someone had reached into their most secure systems and touched them without permission. Kai watched the mission results with a combination of excitement and calculation. This was not about winning a traditional war. This was about showing the Imperials that humans were no longer just victims. They were becoming something else, technological ghosts capable of striking without warning. Elena's transmission had done more than provide technical information. It had given the Resistance something far more valuable: hope. Hope that they could fight back, not through conventional warfare, but through intelligence, strategy, and an understanding of technology that the Imperials had never anticipated. As communication reports from the mission came in, Kai allowed himself a slight smile. The Resistance was no longer just surviving. They were preparing to warn the Galactic Empire about the true potential of human resilience. The abandoned asteroid base hummed with quiet energy. Computer screens flickered with complex codes and intercepted Imperial transmissions. In this small hidden space, a technological revolution was being planned, one line of code at a time. The Resistance base buzzed with electronic tension. Small teams assembled, each member wearing lightweight tactical gear designed to blend seamlessly with various technological environments. Their mission was not about traditional combat, but strategic digital infiltration. Elena's detailed blueprints had revealed something extraordinary about Imperial communication networks. Each system had micro-vulnerabilities, tiny digital pathways that could be manipulated without triggering main security protocols. These were the cracks through which human resistance would flow. Kai organized the teams into specialized units. Some would focus on communication disruption, others on infrastructure manipulation. Each team underwent rigorous training, learning to move through digital landscapes like silent hunters. They practiced reading complex imperial communication patterns, understanding rhythm and flow. Their first major target was a communication relay station near the Proxima system. The station controlled multiple sector-wide communication channels, acting as a central nervous system for imperial military operations. Traditional attacks would be impossible, but strategic digital insertion was another matter. The selected team consisted of 3 technicians, Park Jin-ho, Lee Soo-yeon, and Kim Dong-woo. Each brought unique skills. Jin-ho was a network manipulation expert, Soo-yeon understood encryption protocols, and Dong-woo specialized in camouflage technologies. Their preparation took weeks. They studied every schematic, every potential pathway, understanding that a single mistake could compromise their entire operation. The Imperial system was like a complex living organism. They needed to move within it without triggering its defensive mechanisms. On the operation day, they used specialized quantum transmission devices developed from Elena's research. These weren't traditional communication tools, but sophisticated digital chameleons capable of mimicking imperial communication signatures. The team's approach was surgical. They didn't aim to destroy the communication relay, but to subtly redirect and confuse its information streams. Small redirections, almost imperceptible changes that would accumulate over time, creating growing uncertainty within imperial systems. Jin-ho's fingers danced across specialized interfaces. Complex algorithms flickered across multiple screens, each representing a potential entry point. He was like a digital locksmith finding the smallest cracks in an otherwise impenetrable system. Their first insertion was subtle, a minor communication reroute that would seem like a standard system glitch. Imperial technicians would spend hours trying to understand why certain transmission protocols were behaving unexpectedly. Hours passed. The team worked in near silence, their breathing controlled, their movements precise. Each team member understood the high stakes. One wrong move could alert Imperial detection systems and compromise everything. As their operation progressed, they began introducing minor chaos into Imperial communication networks. Not destruction, but calculated confusion. Imagine a massive bureaucratic system where messages start arriving at wrong destinations, where scheduling becomes unpredictable, where trust in communication begins to erode. The resistance was fighting a psychological war. By showing the Imperials that their supposedly secure systems could be manipulated, they were planting seeds of doubt. Every small disruption would make Imperial commanders question their technological superiority. When the mission concluded, no alarms had been triggered, no physical damage was done. But something fundamental had changed. The Imperial communication network now carried an invisible wound, a subtle vulnerability that would grow with each subsequent operation. Kai received the mission report in the resistance base. His eyes scanned the data, a thin smile forming at the corners of his mouth. They weren't just resisting anymore. They were teaching the Imperial forces a new kind of warfare, a war fought in digital shadows, where technology became the most potent weapon. The team returned, exhausted but quietly triumphant. They knew they had struck a blow far more significant than any physical attack. They had shown that human ingenuity could penetrate the most advanced technological defenses. As equipment was carefully stored and mission reports filed, an unspoken understanding filled the resistance base. They were no longer just survivors. They were becoming something else. Technological warriors who would remake the rules of galactic conflict, one carefully placed algorithm at a time. Dr. Yuna Lee stood before the massive communication array, her fingers hovering over complex transmission controls. The moment they had been preparing for had arrived, broadcasting a warning that would shake the entire galactic imperial system. Elena's collected data would become their weapon. Not a traditional weapon of destruction, but a precise message of technological rebellion, Every Imperial communication channel would receive this transmission simultaneously, a feat previously thought impossible. The broadcast preparation took weeks of careful planning. They needed to bypass multiple encryption layers, override security protocols, and ensure the message would penetrate every Imperial communication network. It wasn't just about sending a message. It was about making the Imperials understand the true potential of human technological capability. Kai reviewed the final draft of the transmission. The message was carefully constructed. A detailed exposition of Imperial cruelty, combined with a clear demonstration of their newfound technological power. Each word was chosen to create maximum psychological impact. The transmission would reveal everything: detailed records of human experiments, technological vulnerabilities in Imperial systems, and a stark warning about continued aggression. More than a message, it was a declaration of technological warfare. As the countdown began, tension filled the resistance base. Everyone understood the significance of this moment. This was more than just a communication. It was humanity's response to years of oppression. 3, 2, 1. The transmission burst across Imperial networks like a digital shockwave. Billions of communication nodes suddenly carried the same message. Imperial communication centers across multiple star systems began experiencing simultaneous disruptions. The message was brutally clear. Humans were no longer victims. They had transformed their suffering into technological power. Imperial communication centers went into immediate lockdown. Technicians frantically tried to understand how a single transmission could penetrate their most secure networks. Alarms blared. Emergency protocols activated. But nothing could stop the message. Each Imperial communication screen displayed the same content, detailed schematics of their own vulnerabilities, documented evidence of human suffering, a warning that continued aggression would result in total technological destruction. The psychological impact was immediate. Imperial military commanders realized something terrifying. Their technological superiority had been fundamentally compromised. The humans they had treated as experimental subjects had become something entirely unexpected. Admiral Huan Kim, the highest-ranking Imperial communication officer, watched in disbelief. The transmission contained technical details that only internal Imperial research teams should know. It revealed secrets that suggested a level of infiltration beyond anything they had imagined. The message concluded with a chilling statement. "We are not asking for mercy. We are warning you to run." Across Imperial space stations, military bases, and communication centers, panic began to spread. The transmission wasn't just information, it was a demonstration of technological capability. Humans had shown they could reach into the most secure Imperial systems at will. Imperial technicians worked frantically to block the transmission, to isolate communication networks. But each attempt was anticipated, each firewall already mapped and understood. The humans had been planning this moment for months. The resistance base erupted in quiet celebration. They hadn't fired a single physical weapon. They had fought using something far more powerful: pure technological intelligence. Dr. Yuna Lee allowed herself a rare smile. Years of suffering, of watching humans be treated as experimental subjects, had led to this moment. They weren't just sending a warning. They were rewriting the rules of galactic conflict. As Imperial communication systems continued to experience unexplained disruptions, one thing became clear: humanity was no longer a species to be conquered. They had become a technological force that could bring entire Imperial systems to their knees. The warning had been sent. The countdown to Imperial uncertainty had begun, and humanity was just getting started. The galaxy watched in silent anticipation. What had begun as a subtle resistance was now a full-scale technological insurgency. Elena Park's final strategy was about to unfold, a complete dismantling of the Imperial technological infrastructure. Imperial systems began failing simultaneously across multiple star systems. Communication networks collapsed. Defense grids went offline. Navigation systems produced random nonsensical coordinates. It wasn't destruction. It was controlled chaos. Kai Choi monitored the global technological breakdown from the resistance base. Each system failure was precisely calculated, a digital domino effect designed to create maximum confusion. The Imperials had spent decades building their technological superiority, and now humans were tearing it apart with surgical precision. The first major Imperial communication hub near the Orion sector went completely dark. Thousands of technicians suddenly found themselves disconnected, their advanced systems reduced to silent metal boxes. No alarms triggered, no physical damage showed. The systems simply stopped working. Elena's engineered viruses moved through Imperial networks like intelligent ghosts. They didn't destroy systems completely. They manipulated them. Imagine a massive bureaucratic machine where nothing works quite right. Messages went to wrong destinations. Security protocols became unpredictable. Trust in technology began to crumble. Imperial military commanders watched, in horror. Their most advanced quantum communication networks were being systematically compromised. Each attempt to restore systems was anticipated, each repair pathway already mapped and neutralized. The psychological warfare was as powerful as the technological attack. Humans were showing the galaxy that technological superiority was an illusion. What the Imperials considered unbreakable, humans saw as a complex puzzle waiting to be solved. Dr. Yuna Lee tracked the system failures. Each collapse was not random, but strategically designed. They were removing the Imperial technological backbone without firing a single traditional weapon. This was warfare in its most intelligent form. Some Imperial communication centers tried to fight back. Teams of their best technicians worked desperately to understand the attack, but each solution was already anticipated. The human resistance had mapped every potential defensive strategy months in advance. The attack wasn't just about technological destruction. It was a message. Humans were declaring that they would no longer be victims. The species that had been treated as experimental subjects was now teaching the galaxy a lesson about technological resilience. Entire Imperial star bases went offline. Navigation systems produced impossible coordinates. Communication channels became unreliable. Military supply routes collapsed. The Imperial infrastructure was being dismantled not through violence, but through pure technological intelligence. Admiral Huan Kim, the highest-ranking Imperial communication officer, watched his systems collapse. The very technology they had used to oppress humans was now being used against them. Each failure was a reminder of their fundamental mistake, underestimating human potential. The resistance teams worked in coordinated silence. They weren't just attacking systems, they were rebuilding them. Each collapsed Imperial network was a potential pathway for human technological expansion. What seemed like destruction was actually preparation for a new galactic order. As Imperial systems continued to fail, a new understanding spread across human resistance groups. They were no longer fighting a defensive war. They were creating a new technological civilization built on the ruins of Imperial oppression. Elena's final transmission was simple. "We warned you to run. You didn't listen." The galaxy watched as the most technologically advanced empire in known history was systematically dismantled, not through traditional warfare, but through pure, calculated technological intelligence. Humans had transformed their suffering into their greatest weapon. The Imperials had created their own destruction by underestimating a species they thought they could control. The liberation had begun, and it was fought with lines of code, not bullets. As the last Imperial communication network went dark, a new chapter in galactic history opened. Humanity had arrived, not as victims, but as the most intelligent technological force the universe had ever seen.